The Las Vegas Raiders hired Chip Kelly to be their offensive coordinator, paying him $6 million. He is now the highest paid OC in the National Football League. I don't know about you. I want to know what the quarterback plan is with Chip. So coming up here on today's show, I'm going to tell you this. The top quarterbacks that the Las Vegas Raiders could potentially draft. And the fact that we're going to sit up here and talk about it, we know that the Raiders have the number 6 pick. And you have 10 overall picks this year. But who are the Raiders going to pick is extremely important. And we're going to try to figure out what that pairing looks like with Chip Kelly. Now, if you want to check out the top 5 quarterbacks that I think Chip could potentially look at in free agency and bridge, because in my mind, the Raiders are going to be aggressive this offseason. And I can see the Raiders signing a quarterback in free agency, but then also potentially drafting one during draft day. If you want to see the top 5 quarterbacks that I think make the most sense for Chip in free agency, click the subscribe button. You can also see this video. It's going to be down in the comments and in the description of today's show. So coming up here on today's episode of the Raiders Report, I have ranked the top 10 quarterbacks for Chip Kelly based on least likely to most likely being drafted. These are not QBs where I'm saying the number 1 guy is the guy that I like the most for Kelly. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying the guy ranked number 1 is the person I think is the most likely that the Raiders draft for our new OC. Let's go to number 10 here. It's going to be Kurtis Rourke. I'm going to be honest. I'm going to move through some of these names a little bit quickly because Rourke is not really somebody that I think has a lot of potential, though at 6'5", 223, there were some reports apparently that he did play on a torn ACL or a knee injury for a majority of the season. Did get better and better and better. Kelly did get to see him in the Big Ten, but this is a QB that you're probably going to draft in the 7th round, not a legitimate starter anyway. Let's go to number 9 here on the list. It's Quinn Ewers in Texas, and Ohio State's gotten into some pretty interesting battles, got into an interesting battle this season, and Ewers is somebody that I really thought should have went back to college, and I think he should have taken the Carson Beck route of, all right, I might not be able to stay at my current school, but I could go to another school. Ewers has got a big arm, and I'll tell you this. If I was Ewers, the number 1 OC or one of the top OCs I'd want to go to could be Chip because I think that skill set does work and translate very well, but it's not somebody that I would want the Raiders to draft, and I really hope it's not somebody that Chip Kelly wants the Raiders to go out and get. Let's go to number 8 here. It's Riley Leonard, and the reason why I have Leonard ranked higher than Quinn and higher than Rourke is because of where I think that he could potentially go. I think Leonard is a better quarterback than Rourke. However, I don't think that Leonard is a better QB than Quinn Ewers, but you can get Leonard probably a little bit later on. I'm going to say he goes in the 6th round, maybe 5th round, but probably 6th, 7th round, a little bit later on. Another QB that has shown that he can run the football. And I'll be curious to see what type of offense Kelly implements. Does he go with one that, we saw back in his Oregon days? Do we see one that he implemented at Ohio State? Do we see kind of a blend? Do we see what he was doing at UCLA? A lot of different routes. But to me, I wanted to just throw out some names of other QBs that you can look at in the draft. But realistically, this list gets serious in the top 7. So before I get into the top 7 quarterbacks, the ones that I believe are the most likely that the Raiders draft for Kelly, who is the perfect quarterback to pair with Chip Kelly from the 2025 NFL Draft? You're about to get hit with the YouTube ad break. I want you to scroll on down and give me your answer. The answer coming up for me is going to be at number 1, but I will say I know people are going to go with Dillon Gabriel just because of the Oregon connection. Now, Gabriel has no connection whatsoever with Chip, but people see that, that Oregon Duck, and everybody, I don't care what you say. When I think of Chip Kelly, I still think of the Oregon Ducks. And one of the things that we got to talk about with Kelly is the ability to execute a system. Dillon Gabriel, yes, he's undersized. He's got a high football IQ, but he's able to show that he can execute a system. I believe he's going to be drafted somewhere around the 4th, maybe 5th round, and there's just better quarterbacks in that area, which is why I have Gabriel at 7. I did talk about many months ago that a source told me that the Raiders were eyeing Shedeur Sanders as plan A and Dillon Gabriel as plan B. I'll admit that was with the idea of Tom Telesco being the GM, so I don't know exactly where that stands, but I've learned this week. I've learned that just because somebody told me something 2 months ago and it changes a little bit doesn't necessarily mean that you take all that information and throw it out the window. I was also told 2 months ago that the Raiders were going to eye Chip Kelly to be an offensive coordinator. Then other stuff happened. We kind of forgot about it a little bit. I'm going to make sure that I don't forget about Dillon Gabriel and what I was told a few months ago because, again, I was told the same thing about Kelly. Kind of forgot about it a little bit, and now guess what? He's back. He's the OC. Let's go to number 6 here on the list. It's Cam Ward. Y'all know that I love Cam Ward, and I'm telling you this right now. The only quarterback that the Las Vegas Raiders should trade up for to pair with Kelly It is Cam flippin' Ward. And I say that based off of round one. If the Raiders want to move up and go get their guy in the second, third, fourth round, I'm not going to be upset about it. I'm not. But he's the best quarterback in the draft, and I think the only way that you're going to be able to get him is if you trade up for him. That's why he's number 6. Again, this is a list based on what is the most likely. But I'm telling you this right now. You told me perfect world, top quarterback for Kelly. It's Cam. He's always cool, calm, and collected. He's shown that he's able to get better and better and better. And when he was at Washington State, and then you saw that what he was able to do at Miami this past season, the way that he goes through his progression, the way that he sits in a pocket and really can pick people apart, I think that that is the best version of what Chip Kelly's offense could potentially look like in the NFL. Is Ward a runner? No, but when he needs to use his legs, he has that ability. And that's the type of quarterback that I think that the Raiders are going to look for to pair with Chip. Not somebody that's a runner, but somebody that is a precision pocket passer that has the ability to use his legs when he needs to use his legs. Like, I don't consider Patrick Mahomes a pocket passer. I don't consider even, Joe Burrow a pocket passer. I don't consider Josh Allen a pocket passer, but when they sit in the pocket, they can deliver a strike. They can also tuck in and run and pick up a first down with their legs, which is why I love Cam Ward. If the Raiders figured out a way to get Cam Ward, man, oh man, I'm putting a hole through this table. We got our top 5 QBs most likely to be drafted by the Raiders for Chip Kelly here in just a moment. But you know what? PrizePicks is today's sponsor, and I flippin' love PrizePicks. And I think, honestly, y'all will too, because it's the best place to get real money sports action with over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings. PrizePicks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash. Run your game all season long on PrizePicks. The big game, it's almost here, and it's now or never. Don't miss out on the last football game of the season with PrizePicks. Download the app today. Use code CLNS. You get $50 instantly when you play your first $5 lineup. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive a $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Also, with the big game, they're going to hook you guys up with a deal, which you guys can see right now. Patrick Mahomes, he's going to throw for more than a half of a passing yard. So you take the more there, and then you got to look at somebody from the Philadelphia Eagles, because when you make a lineup on PrizePicks, you got to at least pick 2 players from 2 different teams. You know what I'm saying? So if you pick Mahomes, you can't then choose a Chiefs player. You got to choose an Eagles player. So A.J. Brown, let's say, more or less than 70.5 receiving yards for the Eagles receiver. If you're sitting here going, oh, that's an easy more, that's an easy less, then put your money where your mouth is. Also, then you take the more on Patrick Mahomes, and you're going to be able to put some money in your pocket. If you plan on watching the big game, you might as well put some money in your pocket while you do it. And if you plan on hanging out with Jeremy Chuggs and I, you already know, we're going to have a bunch of PrizePicks lineups. So download the app today. Use code CLNS. Get $50 instantly when you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks. Run your game. I should also mention this. Those links down in the comments, down in the description. The OGs, you already know. Let's go to number 5 here. It's Jalen Milroe from Alabama. And if the Raiders wanted to go really smash mouth, I'm talking they wanted to try to run the football down the throats of their opponents, and they go out and they sign a quarterback like Justin Fields in free agency, I'm going to put Jalen Milroe higher up on this list. If they go out and they sign somebody like a Sam Darnold, then I don't know if this one makes all that much sense. If they go out and they sign a Russell Wilson, then I think Jalen Milroe is a little bit easier to think about. But this is a player that needs at least a year or 2 to develop. Quite frankly, I think he needs at least 2 years. But he's the best athlete at the quarterback position this year. And I think, honestly, from an athlete standpoint, he's going to be up there with somebody like an Anthony Richardson. If I was Milroe, playing an old-school Chip Kelly offense like they ran in Oregon would be a lot of fun, and it's the way that you'd have to do it. The problem, though, is I don't know if that's what the Chip Kelly offense is anymore, because I think when people think of the Kelly offense, they just instantly go back to the Oregon Ducks, to Marcus Mariota, and it's going to be a lot of RPOs. It's going to be a lot of just quick passes. It's going to be designed for a QB like Milroe. And maybe it is designed for Milroe. I don't know what the Raiders plan. And quite frankly, one of my favorite parts about Chip is I really do. I think no matter which quarterback you give him, he's going to be able to have success. Is Milroe a risk? Yes, absolutely. But if you let Jalen Milroe learn from John Spytek, you let him learn underneath Tom Brady, you let him learn from a veteran, somebody like a Russell Wilson, maybe a Justin Fields, whoever it may be, you also let him learn with Chip Kelly. He's an alien on the field. You can't deny that. It's just, is he ever going to be able to put it together from a passing standpoint? That, unfortunately, I do not know. Let's go to number 4 here on the list, and it's going to be Kyle McCord. The reason why I have McCord ranked higher than Milroe, not because I think McCord's a better player than Milroe, though if you want to talk about a quarterback on tape that I've been watching more and I'm falling more and more in love with him, it's Kyle McCord. The other thing, though, is where you're going to be able to get him. I think you're going to be able to get McCord probably on day 3, and because you're going to be able to get him on day 3, it's easier for the Raiders and higher of a chance to go get him if they want him. McCord was the Ohio State quarterback in 2023, the year before Kelly came to the Buckeyes, but here are the things that I love about him. Strong arm, super quick release. That's a big, very important thing for Tom Brady, quick release. Not a great athlete, but when a play breaks down, he can use his legs to extend it. And I do love his play action ability because when I go back and I look at some of those really great Pete Carroll offenses with Russell, it was a lot of play action because they're going to want to run the football. And if you know they're going to want to run the football, then they need to be able to have somebody that can do play action. 37 total touchdowns last season. I know it says negative 65 rushing yards. That's because I hate it, but college football, when you get sacked, it counts as negative rushing yards. It's literally the dumbest thing that college football does. But for people that did watch the Syracuse Orange, and I watch Syracuse football often just because I got some friends that are very tied to that university. So I did. I watched McCord a lot. And also this year was a year that I wanted to watch a lot of quarterbacks. And the fact that he was at Ohio State the year before, I wanted to see how it translated. And I'll tell you this, from a talent standpoint alone, I think Kyle McCord's a better quarterback than Will Howard. I'm not afraid to say it. I think if Kyle McCord would have been the quarterback this past year for the Buckeyes, they also would have won a freaking national championship. Let's go to number 3, though, on our list here. It's Shedeur Sanders. And Sanders, I think a lot of people expected to be number 1 on my list. But the reason that Shedeur's number 3 is because of where you have to take him. If the Raiders want Sanders, you're going to have to take him in round 1. You might even have to take him at number 6 overall. I'll admit, there's been a lot of reports, there's been a lot of rumors circulating that Sanders will be available to the Raiders at number 6. The connections that he has with TB12, they're already there. Deion Sanders has already made it known that he wants Shedeur to be a Raider, and he said that when he said that I want the Raiders job. He said the only way that he would take the Raiders job is if he can get one of his kids to play there. Shedeur's got great accuracy, and he has shown growth in every single year from Jackson State to Colorado to the following year at Colorado. And here's the other thing that I love about him. He handles pressure. Yeah, you might do some weird, corny stuff once in a while, flashing a watch here and there, but being in the NFL is not easy. Being the quarterback of the Raiders means you're going to have a lot of pressure, and you're going to have a lot of eyeballs on you. There's not a better quarterback more prepared for eyeballs and pressure than Shedeur Sanders, and that's just a cold, hard fact. I'll admit this, though. We had a few guys that were watching him live in person recently, and the velocity of the ball coming out of his hands, I was told, was a little bit concerning for some people out there. But, and I'm not trying to compare the two because I'm somebody where I look at notes, and I say, where can we learn? I looked at some of the quarterback notes that I have on Shedeur Sanders based on velocity of the football. And it reminds me way back when Deshaun Watson wasn't, a shithead, but when he was coming out of Clemson, I had notes on him being good, accurate player, can make plays, but bad velocity. And Deshaun, before the shenanigans, was a good quarterback. We can all agree on that. I know the velocity scares me, but he does have anticipatory throws. I think that's the right way to use it. He can find guys open. He can do some good things, but the upside for Shedeur does scare me. But the connections around Tom Brady, and with Brady making a lot of the calls, Shedeur's got to be in this top 3, but he's not in my top 2. How about this, though? I've said before that I believe Cam Ward is the best option for the Raiders. He's the guy that I want this organization to go out and get. And if Ward is the only quarterback that I would start in year 1. I'm going to talk a lot about draft quarterbacks. I'm going to talk about a lot of different guys on this show and throughout the entire year. I'm serious when I say this. The only quarterback that I think is ready to start in year 1 is Cam Ward. Any other quarterback that you draft, whether it's Shedeur Sanders, Kyle McCord, Jalen Milroe, maybe it's this next guy coming up on the list, they need to sit for at least a year, maybe even 2 years. If you agree with that, hit that like button. Let's go to number 2 on my list. It is Jaxson Dart, the Ole Miss running rebel. And a lot of rumors, a lot of reports here around Jaxson Dart. And to me, the number 1 offensive coordinator that Dart should want to play for is Chip Kelly. He's a good athlete who can execute a system, and that's what he's going to be asked to do with Kelly. Kelly does a lot of stuff, but he also kind of simplifies it where he's going to get the tight end involved. They're going to run the football a bunch. You're going to need to be able to use play action, and on top of that, you need to be able to throw the ball to all levels of the field, but you also need to have confidence in yourself. And Jaxson Dart is a player that, when he's confident, he's really good. And I'm going to throw out a comparison here, and I hope it doesn't scare people because I don't think it's the same from a skill position standpoint. But Jaxson Dart has a little Derek Carr in him where when Derek was at his peak, and I mean when he was moving the football, it's because he was confident in himself. But as soon as things started to go bad, tail between his legs, and it was instant like, oh no, we're about to get the bad version of Derek Carr. That's what happens when I watch Jaxson Dart tape. There are times when I watch Dart throw the football, and I'm like, holy flippin' cow, this guy is pushing the ball down the field, and I love what I'm seeing. I also was not a big fan of Josh Allen coming out of college, and a lot of people knew that. But Allen was able to find the right guy, and Brian Dable was able to find the right system that let him learn how to be a quarterback. Dart's got a lot of the athletic intangibles that you can't really teach, and he does a lot of good stuff. But his technique, his footwork, his arm angles, there's a lot of inconsistencies in that. If you let Dart learn with people that have had success with quarterbacks like Pete Carroll, John Spytek, Chip Kelly, Tom Brady, and you let him learn for a year or two, I think it's interesting. Also, he's number 2 because of the amount of rumors, the amount of reports right now saying that the Raiders could be interested in him. It's not somebody I want to take in round 1. But the fact that you might be able to get him in round 2 is why I have him ranked at number 2. But let's face it, the number 1 quarterback that I would say if I was a betting man right now is the most likely to be drafted by the Raiders for Chip Kelly. And the only reason is because Chip Kelly and Will Howard just won a national championship together, right? Like, that's the only reason why I can sit up here and say that it makes sense. I'll be real. I don't think Will Howard's that good of a quarterback in the NFL. He's a good college QB. But he did just win a natty. He's a mobile pocket passer, which is something that I know for a fact Kelly wants. And Chugs laughed because I said he's low-key a good play-action QB. But that's important because they're going to use a lot of play-action because they're going to want to run the football for the Raiders. It's what Carroll does. It's what their offensive line coach is going to want to do, Carroll's kid. And it's what, Chip's going to want to do. Like, I think a lot of times people think either Chip's going to just run the football a ton or just air raid. He does like an air raid run the attack. He beats you however he wants to beat you based on scheme. And I know Howard executed the system. But also, the amount of talent that Ohio State had, was insane. The amount of talent the Buckeyes had on offense compared to most defenses in college football, they always had more talent. And it's not going to be that skewed in the NFL where he's going to have to go out there and he's going to have to do his thing. Now, again, maybe if you let him sit for 2 years, because, again, Will Howard's 2-year project, I'm telling you. He's from Downington, PA, which does kill me a little bit. I know some people that grew up around Will Howard, and everybody that I hear about him say he is a phenomenal human being. Stand-up guy, got a gray head on his shoulders, hard-working kid, does a lot of those things. But I'm only going to say this. The only reason why he's number 1 is because of that connection with Chip Kelly. Out of all these names on this list, I would rather Jaxson Dart over Will Howard. I would rather Shedeur Sanders over Will Howard. I would rather Kyle McCord, Jalen Milroe, Cam Ward. I would even maybe flirt with the idea of Dillon Gabriel over Will Howard if it's based on winning football games and talent alone. But to me, these are the top 10 quarterbacks, and really, I think the top 4, top 5 is where you got to be paying attention to because the Raiders are more than likely going to take a quarterback, but they're also more than likely going to take a QB that's going to learn for at least 1 year. If you want to take a screenshot of this, post it on IG, post it on Twitter. Make sure you tag me at Mitchell Renz 365. It's going to be one hell of an offseason. Hopefully you all are ready to buckle it up because Chip Kelly, it's going to be really, really fun to see what they do at the quarterback position.